Hi, welcome to the Safe Sanctuary training video for Bellevue United Methodist Church. I'm Debbie Tyree, one of the clergy here at Bellevue, and I'm the staff person who helps make sure that we follow the process and to help you be able to know what our Safe Sanctuary policy says. I'm thrilled that you have volunteered to be one of our workers with children or youth or vulnerable adults. And the whole purpose of Safe Sanctuary is to help you be the best you can be in your role as a mentor with them. Now, many people wonder why this is important in the life of the church. What is this thing about Safe Sanctuary being such a big deal? Well, it really is a sign of hospitality. Our scriptures are filled with calls to justice and mercy. In Micah, Isaiah, Amos, Deuteronomy, they tell us over and over that we have compassion and mercy, and we have a call to work for justice, for there to have righteous ways of being in God's love. Throughout the Bible, especially in the Hebrew scriptures, we hear stories of extreme hospitality. We hear stories of literally the fatted calf being offered so that the guest who came unaware and unannounced into the community, into that little tent community of nomads, was offered the best meal, the best tent, the best there was to offer, the best drink. I bet they were even offered the best and comfiest rug to lay on at nighttime for bed, because the owner wanted them to know that they were welcome, that they were safe, and they were honored that this guest chose to come there. And in the Psalms, we hear over and over again that this holy place where they were was to be treasured in safety and in harmony. Now, I know when you thought about this, you went immediately to the scripture found in Mark 10. Jesus taught us that children were to be included and provided for in the community of faith. All of those biblical stories remind us that as believers in Jesus, we are to offer the love of Christ to everyone, and that includes helping our children, youth, and vulnerable adults feel safe and loved in our physical space here at the church. It's also very, very important to the United Methodist denomination. The United Methodist Church is very clear in the Book of Discipline that we are called to make our places safe for those who may be vulnerable, including children, youth, older adults, or persons with disabilities, by our policies for the whole church. And through our witness at every child's baptism, we say we're going to nurture and care for you by our teaching and our example. We're going to care for you and let you know that God loves you by the way that we make sure that you know you are safe and loved here in this place. Rabbi Creditor may have said it best. Our sanctuaries are not sanctuaries from children. They are sanctuaries for children. Not from children, but for children. And honestly, we never know what's happened in a child's life or what is happening in their life. This may be the only place they feel safe. It may be it's the first time they've come back to a church or from a hurtful family situation, and they have come and trusted us to let them know they are safe because we have a safe sanctuary policy. I can't tell you how many times parents of small children have said to me, "Thank you for working so hard to keep our children safe." So what's our purpose in having a safe sanctuary? First and foremost is to make sure that each child, youth, and vulnerable adult feels safe and secure at Bellevue United Methodist Church. They know this is a place where God's love for them is expressed fully by those around them in the church. And yes, we need to reduce our risk as an organization. And we want to protect you, our volunteers, as well. So what's the impact when the horrible happens, when an accusation is made? Everyone suffers pain and hurt when that accusation is made. Every person in the church, from the nursery, the smallest, youngest child, to the oldest member, feels the pain and hurt of an accusation. The community at large is impacted as well. You know what social media and the news does. You can just imagine. But also in every parent or caregiver's mind and heart, they're thinking, if it happened there, it could happen anywhere in our community. It causes deep pain in the lives of the victim and their family. It causes deep pain in the lives of the accused and their family. And while we tend to only talk about the financial cost of litigation, there's a deep and spiritual cost as well. Once trust is lost, it is difficult to regain, and it takes a really long time. We're talking up to a decade or longer to fully regain trust in the life of a community. So you're thinking, well, why are we worrying about this? The church is safe, right? There are so many misconceptions about where abuse happens and who is the perpetrator. Sexual abuse, exploitation, and ritual abuse occurs in churches, large and small, urban and rural, in every kind of church, in every size. It doesn't make any difference. And abuse cuts across all economic, cultural, and racial lines. Most of our United Methodist annual conferences can cite specific incidents of sexual abuse within the conference. The abuser is most often known by the victim. The reality is that many of us were taught stranger danger. That's no longer the biggest issue in sexual abuse. It's not strangers, friends. Most of the time, the victim knows and trusts the abuser. It's real. Every community has specific examples of abuse. It's not someplace way over there. It's here in our community. So, why is the church at risk? I've been a member here for 80 years. Don't you trust me? Why do I have to do this background check and training? Because it's not about you. It's about being trained to make sure that an environment is safe and welcoming so that every child can experience God's love through us. It's not that we don't trust you. We want to make sure that the environment is safe, and you are part of that process. And let's be honest, churches and we all want to think that everybody's a nice person. We don't want to even consider there may be an abuser within our community or church. And every child and youth and vulnerable adult develops strong trust relationships within our care. And vulnerable populations need us to make sure that trust is never betrayed in this manner. The National Center for Child Abuse and Neglect reports that there are more than 3 million incidents of physical abuse and or neglect each year in the United States. Studies show that 1 out of 9 girls is sexually abused before the age of 18, and that 1 out of 53 boys have been sexually abused before the age of 18. 1 out of 9 girls, 1 out of 53 boys before the age of 18. And those are only the ones that are reported. We know the numbers are likely greatly underestimated, since many do not report the incidents. The victims are impacted for the rest of their life in big ways and small everyday ways. We care for our vulnerable population by watching for signs of all kinds of abuse: physical, neglect, sexual, and psychological. Our Safe Sanctuary Policy booklet has details on each. I ask that you review the policy book. Take the time to read it so you are aware of each of the signs. You never know when you're going to see one of those and experience that and wonder, oh, that's one of the signs. So what are we doing here at Bellevue United Methodist Church to help take care of children and make them feel safe and loved? We're doing screening and training. You're part of that process. We have a 2-adult rule. Though there are 2 adults, trained adults, Safe Sanctuary trained adults, with children at all times, they are non-related, with specific guidelines for overnight trips if you happen to be involved with youth in that. You must be retrained and re-background checked every 4 years. We have the 5-year rule that you must be 5 years older than the student you're supervising, and you must be 18 to be Safe Sanctuary trained. So a trained 18-year-old could be a supervisor with another adult of children, but they couldn't do youth. We have set adult-child ratio and adult-youth ratios in our policy books, and that book you've gotten. We have a pretty stringent bathroom policy. Preschool children during Sunday school and during choirs and other church-focused and church-sponsored activities will use the bathroom within each room. The teacher will request assistance from another adult if the child needs help while in the bathroom. So a preschooler says, help me, I need help pulling up my pants. And so you as one adult may walk into the restroom and kind of help the child guide their pants up. But before you do that, you say, hey, so-and-so, can you come here and stand nearby? They need to be able to see the rest of the students still. You can't just focus on that one child. But they also need to have their vision line on you, 2 adults. For school-age children, during Sunday school, choirs, or other church-based events, through grade 5, they'll go to the bathroom in pairs and be directed to remain together. A teacher or one of our hallway floaters or another Safe Sanctuary trained adult will watch from a classroom door or the hallway and will watch to make sure that they come out together and they return to their classroom together. No wanderers. If a child says, I need help, you can go into the larger restroom, but stand within the door frame to say, how can I help you? If you think the child really, truly does need help, you're going to have to say, just a minute, I need someone else, and go find another Safe Sanctuary trained adult to be able to handle it with you. During worship, we ask families to use the restrooms in the narthex. We have the child's side one where we have a changing table for infants and restroom on that side, as well as a restroom on the other side. So 2 children can be going to the restroom at the same time in 2 different spaces. We ask, the ushers will be always guide families to those restrooms. All of our classrooms and offices have an uncovered window. Doors should be left open most of the time. Our nursery has a split door so that they can have that happen. And we have a sign-in and sign-out policy for the nursery and children's choirs. As part of our registration process for our ministries of children here and youth, as well as things like Vacation Bible School and such, we ask for permission to take pictures of children to use in permission for the church. However, we never use the child's last name. We do not tag any child with their full name on Facebook or allow others to do so. Usually, if a specific parent, we just send them a copy of the photo they want. If a person says, I do not want my child's photos posted, we do not post them. The youth and the children's ministries both have a closed private Facebook group that allows us to post within those groups so that parents can be able to make copies as needed. We still don't post full names even in those groups. Any community group using our building also agrees by our policies. Did you know that in Tennessee, we are mandated to report any child abuse? Not me as a clergy person, but you. That means you have a mandate in the state of Tennessee. If you witness a situation of child abuse, whether here at church or elsewhere, here's what we suggest, and as our policy at the church. You call 911 first. Second, you remove the child from the situation. Don't worry about the perpetrator. Your only responsibility and accountability at Bellevue on our property is to remove the child. We suggest that you take them on the opposite end. More often than not, come up to the welcome center because there'll be somebody there more often, and police will often meet the persons there. Don't worry about the perpetrator. That's not our accountability. The police will have the responsibility for the perpetrator, and they actually prefer that we not get involved because if it does go to court, they want to make sure that you're able to testify focused totally on the child, not on what the perpetrator is doing after that. If you suspect child or youth or vulnerable adult abuse, please come and talk to Brian or I or the pastors in charge immediately. We may be aware of a situation or actively working in that in the case of a food insecurity or a clothing situation where we can help get coats and whatnot. We will stand by you as you make the call to the child abuse hotline. There is a hotline that you can call that we will want you to call if you have suspected abuse, whether it's here at the church or in your community. It is an anonymous call. They will take the information from you and will turn it over to the police. You won't be involved from that point in time. They won't say, Mr. So-and-so or Ms. So-and-so called us. But they will check into your call to make sure the situation is one that is safe and to bring in help as needed. This phone number is posted in every single room in the church. We have a poster in every room near usually the light switch that reminds you of our policies for Safe Sanctuary and posts clearly the number to call in case of suspected child abuse. It also includes the elder abuse line. Sadly, in Tennessee, elder abuse is not mandated, but we want you to call if you suspect. We have an incident report form that will help you fill out if you suspect something or even after you call 911 and the police have come. It's set up to help you line out the incident in a way that's orderly so that it will be able to help you and us in the future. Remember, there's a difference between secrecy and confidentiality. So in the case of calling 911 or a suspected situation of abuse, we ask that you use confidentiality. A suspected situation is totally different than a situation that has been found to be true. And we want to make sure that everything we can do is to help both the victim, their family, but also the police and the case if need be. There is a difference between secrecy and confidentiality. So we ask that you not tell your family member, that you not tell your next door neighbor what happened, that you keep it to Brian and I until we're able to move forward a little further and are able to share the situation if needed. In most cases, it doesn't need to be shared. Here's one important thing to know. If a child tells you about abuse of any kind, you are required to report it. You are required to call that 800 number, that child abuse line. It's once again mandated. They'll check it out for you. If a child tells you while you're on property at church, and you're able to find another adult to cover for you, bring that child to Brian and I, and we will work with you in this situation. If it is an appointed clergy at Bellevue or appointed clergy from another United Methodist Church that is here and that is involved that you suspect or witness child abuse, contact the staff parish chairperson and our district superintendent. No clergy person is above being also held accountable. Again, it's important to know what to do if you witness child abuse. Call 911, remove the child from the situation to a safe place, contact Brian or I. Suspect a child abuse. Come to Brian and I, and we will work with you to be able to figure out what's going on. If a child tells you, that is a mandated call to the hotline. And this is for anywhere in your community where you are, in your neighborhood, if you're out shopping, not just in our church. While these policies are specific for our church, they're good for just about anywhere you're going to be in Tennessee. As I said, elder abuse is not mandated reporting in Tennessee, but we believe it's equally important. The number for the hotline for elder abuse is also posted in every one of those posters in the classroom. So let's rewind a little bit. Why do we do this? Because of the scriptural call to justice and mercy, hospitality and generosity, because it's a holy place that was treasured to worship in safety and harmony. And Jesus taught us that children be included and provided for in the community of faith. It's denominational. The 1996 General Conference included safe sanctuary as a priority for the church, and our own annual conference requires it. Every year in our church conference forms, we have to say, yes, we have a safe sanctuary policy, and we follow it. And it's also personal, because we make a covenant with every child at their baptism that we'll keep them safe, that we'll keep them feeling fully loved among us as they learn about God's love. So, I know you're going to have questions. You've thought of things that may happen. Please reach out to me now and send me those questions. Email me, call me, catch me in the hallway. I want to talk about it with you and help find some solutions to the what-if scenarios you may come with. I want you to feel comfortable following the Safe Sanctuary Plan that BUMC has in place. So, what's next? Make sure you've submitted your background check form. We can't go anywhere without that. And send an email to me letting me know you've watched this video so that I can put that check next to the training process. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Thank you for volunteering to be a mentor in a child's life here at Bellevue Methodist Church. Many of us are still involved in life of the church because of a Sunday school teacher, a choir director, that person who sat in front of you in church and turned and smiled and whispered you and said, "I'm so glad you're here today," every week, because you felt loved in the place that you were worshiping with. We want that for every child at Bellevue. My goal would be to have every member ultimately safe sanctuary trained. But for now, I give thanks to God that you've chosen to do this. Thank you. Reach out to me if you have any questions. And thank you for being a safe sanctuary trained volunteer at Bellevue United Methodist Church.